Okay, so less than 24 hours to go until the NRL doubleheader in Las Vegas. Obviously, all the build up, there's been some controversy, there have been some issues. Hasn't all been plain sailing for the NRL. Obviously, the player visa issue has now been resolved. Obviously, the cost overruns cannot be ignored. How much does that eat away at the potential? There's going to be profit made, but how much does that eat away at the profits that the NRL makes from this doubleheader, plus the 5 year plan and taking games here until 2029 as a minimum? On the positive side, they've got Fox Sports as the host broadcaster in the US. I think the media and promotional campaign has worked. It's getting a lot of discussion on social media, predominantly with Americans, and there's a lot of American YouTubers and other social media personalities who are more targeted at the younger fan groups, that 18-30 kind of demographic, who are not only been discussing the NRL and discussing the various aspects of the sport, but they're going to the games. They're going to the games, and tickets are being sold at a lightning rate now. So yes, while there's a lot of overseas non-American fans in attendance, about 15,000 from Australia and New Zealand, about 4,000 from the UK, and about 1,000 from France. So your traditional rugby league markets. A lot of tickets have been sold to locals and other US fans who travelled in, sports fans who travelled into Vegas for these games. So this is not just an expensive holiday for some Aussies, some Kiwis, some Pommies, and some Frogs. No. This is actually the local ticket sales have been really good. So locals and others from other US states have travelled into Vegas are buying tickets. Even people from Canada are buying tickets. So there is an interest there. That the social media campaign and getting Fox Sports as the host broadcaster in the US, I think, is a masterstroke. I don't expect every seat to be occupied for both games. It's going to be like Magic Round. It's going to be like Magic Round. Now, the big point I want to discuss is the playing surface. Now, the actual surface looks really good. The dimensions is what we're going to be talking about. It's slightly shorter and slightly narrower than a standard NRL playing surface. So when we say that, we're talking about some of the Super League playing surfaces over here in the UK and France, which have differing dimensions. We don't have a standard playing surface size over here in the UK and France, so each stadium has its own width and length, whereas the NRL, they're all standardised. That is something that I think is going to be interesting to see how the players adapt to. Now, there's a fair few players who've played a fair few World Club challenges on display tomorrow. There are a fair few players who've played over in the Super League and also played in the recent World Cup on display tomorrow. But they don't regularly play on a playing surface that isn't standardised. In fact, some of them may have never played on a pitch that's smaller. The in-goal areas being slightly shorter, and the narrowness of the pitch itself. So to negate the length issue, they've made the in-goals smaller, but the narrowness is going to be an issue. And there are some concerns about the gap between the touchline and the concrete and the AstroTurf. So it's going to be interesting to see how the passing game and the kicking game evolve to deal with the dimension changes. Also, defensively, it's going to be more of an origin international kind of Australia, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain type of intensity. We're talking representative intensity. I think the intensity will be higher because defences are going to be, I think it's going to be a fatigue battle with physicality. I don't think in the first, couple of, I wouldn't say the first 20 minutes, we're going to see a lot of width from the game. I think it's going to be the arm wrestle. It's going to be the physicality, a lot of big hits. They're going to try and work short sides if they can, but they're not going to be expansive with the ball. We obviously want to see that. We want to see the fullbacks and wingers get a lot of ball. I think we're going to see a lot of crossfield kicks, a lot of high bombs, spiral bombs. But of course, there's a roof on the stadium. So what happens if the ball hits the roof? That's something we could see potentially happen. They obviously don't play inside dome stadiums very often. So there's a lot of unknowns with the playing surface, how it's going to impact the style of play. I think we're going to see a bit more Route 1 physical brutality. I think we're going to see an origin or international kind of intensity to the brutality. I think this is going to be one it won't be lost in the first 20 minutes, but I think a lot whoever wins that first 20 minutes on the physicality will probably end up winning each game. We are going to see some brutal hits, I have no doubt, and then the space will come. I think they've got to work with, not against, the narrowness. So the wingers may have to do just, may not get a lot of ball early on. They may, have to rely on, making more tackles than runs with ball. But it's going to be interesting. The indoor aspect of the stadium is going to be interesting. So the weather conditions are taken out of it. There's no wind. There's no rain. There's I think it'll be climate controls. There's going to be controlled temperatures. That gets taken out of it. So yes, the Broncos have done some warm weather training, for example, in San Diego. Similar climatic conditions to a certain aspect to southern Nevada. Very hot, very dry. They're going to be playing inside a climate-controlled indoor stadium. So the weather conditions and climate conditions are controlled, taken out of it. That's going to be interesting to see. Does that lead to more knock-ons? Does that lead to better ball retention? Will we see a lot of offloads? Will we just see more simple plays? So that's going to be interesting to see. And we'll also, finally, we've got to see what the viewership figures are like on Fox Sports in America. Has it been worth signing them up as the host broadcaster on this long-term plan? I think it is. I'm going to use other sports that have done really well in the US for increased viewership. European football, obviously, yeah, there's some superstar players, but European football is doing better than the MLS. Rugby union is quite popular as well. So other sports, even cricket, starting to get a following. So other sports that are played globally but aren't overly played in the US and Canada, which have smaller player bases because of the big four major leagues in American football, basketball, baseball, and ice hockey, obviously dominating with TV viewership and revenues, have done really, really well with American sports fans gaining an interest. Obviously, we've seen the massive growth of it in F1. We've seen the massive growth in endurance car racing, MotoGP. So motorsport's done really well as well. With non-traditional US motorsports, obviously IndyCar and NASCAR being the main driver, but sports car racing, F1, Formula E, the World Rally Championship and the various rally championships suddenly have a following because of the late Ken Block. So the potential is there. If they can get any, even a percentage of that 100 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, I think that's a win. And it's also going to, let's see what the TV viewership is like and the viewership around the world is like, not just the US. I think that's going to be key to see how well these games play out. But yeah, we'll see what the games play out like. I think they're going to be played at a really high intensity. I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few mistakes in there. Being at an indoor stadium, you can get that kind of humidity indoors. You can get that, greasiness indoors. But I think it's going to be a very fun contest in both games. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the NRL doubleheader in Vegas below, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.